Hi there, Roger with K&M Precision Shooting Products. In this video we're going to review our hand priming tools. We have two different models that you can choose from, our Primer Deluxe model and our Primer Gauge model. The Primer Deluxe model seats the primer by feel. As you feel the resistance of the primer to the bottom of the primer pocket, that's when you're complete. Whereas the Primer Gauge tool pre-qualifies the depth of the primer pocket relative to the height of the primer. And we'll talk about the sequence of operations of that shortly. When you purchase our tools, it comes with both seating anvil assemblies for both large and small rifle, and you'll also have to select a shell holder for your cartridge. We use Lee Auto Prime shell holders in our tools. One of the nice aspects of our seating anvil assembly is it's a two-piece spring-loaded affair with the inner rod that's heat-treated and hardened and then face ground. The outer shroud that encapsulates a primer is also slightly taller than the primer itself, meaning when you start to squeeze the handle of your priming tool, that shroud makes contact with the case first, pushing it tight up into the extractor grooves on the shell holder. And then as you continue to squeeze your handle, the inner rod pushes the primer up into the bottom of the primer pocket. Well, let's go ahead and seat a primer with the hand priming tool. Once you've selected your proper shell holder and your proper seating assembly, and you've also worked the primer pockets to ensure you have the primer pocket at the proper depth and square with the primer pocket correction tool, it's just simply a matter of installing your primer into the anvil assembly. Slide your cartridge into the shell holder, squeeze the handle until you'll feel the resistance. Once you feel that resistance, the primer's at the bottom of the primer pocket and you're complete. Okay, let's go ahead and seat a primer with our Primer Gauge tool. So if you remember when we talked about this tool earlier, this tool will seat the primer to the bottom of the primer pocket by pre-qualifying the depth of the primer pocket relative to the height of the primer. And we do that by incorporating a gauge into the tool that establishes a zero reference plane at the bottom of the primer pocket. So before you get started, a couple things you want to make sure you have completed on your setup, on your pre-setup, is to ensure that you've got the proper shell holder and anvil assembly for your particular cartridge. And we also want to make sure that the head is at the proper position for our final handle position. Best way to do that, take a prime piece of brass, whether that's live primer or spent primer, doesn't really matter. Slide that into the shell holder and squeeze the handle. What we're looking for is the handle to stop roughly in about this position away from the body. And you can adjust that if you had to by rotating the head clockwise or counterclockwise to achieve that end position. So the sequence of operations go like this. You will squeeze the handle all the way to the body, rotate the cam, install your primer onto the pedestal with the anvil down, rotate the cam back. This just allows the dial indicator to set on the top of the primer now. Release the handle. Once you release the handle, install your unprimed piece of brass into your shell holder. Now squeeze the handle all the way to the body and hold it. So what's happening now is the anvil is seated at the bottom of the primer pocket while the dial indicator stem is sitting on top of the primer. At this point, zero out the face of the dial indicator. Just maybe squeeze that a couple times, make sure your zero is still established. Once you're sure that it is, remove the piece of brass, squeeze the handle, transfer your primer up to your anvil assembly, rotate your cam back, release your handle, take your unprimed piece of brass, slide it back into the shell holder, and start to squeeze. As you squeeze, you'll see that needle come around to the zero. You'll feel the resistance. Squeeze that maybe 2 to 3 thousandths past zero to ensure that your primer is seated and that the anvil and cup assembly have also been seated. And that's our prime piece of brass, and you're complete. Okay, let's take a look at how to assemble a tool, preparing it for use. So if you have to make a change on your anvil assembly or a shell holder, or perhaps you purchased a tool without a shell holder installed, this is what you'll have to do. So the primer body with the shell holder retainer nut on here is a very fine thread, so you'll want to make sure that's threaded up towards the top of the threads. You do not have to take the nut off of the body. First thing you'll do is install the return spring, then your anvil assembly. You've got a little bit of a compression with the shell holder on the spring. Slide that into the slot, and now you'll be threading that down towards the body. It's a very fine thread. Start off with a gap that looks about like this. What you're looking for now is to get the handle where it stops at least here, or perhaps one more revolution into this range. And that's all there is to pre-setting up the tool ready for use. Thanks for watching, and please visit us at kmshooting.com.